What's up? What's up? What's up? And welcome back to after the, to after the snap. Engage Live, where we talk on Sundays all about Star Trek. We are going to be doing the Star Trek Strange New World season 2 season in review. Yay! I'm late today, y'all. I'm a couple minutes late. I had to undo some of Ashton's handiwork. He's been busy. I don't even know if I got everything. I guess I do. He's been a busy little beaver. It's kind of getting difficult. He's moving around a whole hell of a lot more. So forgive me for being just a little late and still setting up just a few things here. If you are in the place right now, give me a what's up so I'll know that you hear me because, like I said, Ashton's been a busy beaver. he has. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull things up, get things set. I hope I can be I'm being heard out here. I don't know. You tell me. If I'm sitting here and you can hear me, say yes or hey or we got you. I might not have nobody in here. So I'm so used to somebody being here. I might be talking to myself, and that's just fine because, like I said, setup is still going on anyway. I gotta wait for. Uh, okay, here it's all loaded now. I'm gonna add it to the stream and take it away. Just got to make sure everything is looking good. It is. It is. So everything's looking good. What's up? What's up? What's up? This is our Star Trek Strange New World season 2, season in review episode where I am going to hey there, hey there, Clarence. I am going to I guess just basically allow for some discussion about season 2, what their shining moments of season 2, some of what we liked, what we didn't like, and then I will give my ranking of the episodes, and I'll also tell you what my ranking, as far my rating of the season ended up being after we tallied all of my ratings for the season. And I know, nine times out of 10, these these rankings are going to be singular pretty much to me. Everybody is going to have their favorites and their least favorite episodes. So by no means am I saying that I'm the authority or I am the voice of what was the best and what was uh, I won't call it the worst. What were the weakest and strongest episodes of the season? And that is not to say that these episodes were bad. It's just when in comparison of the others, was it a stronger or weaker episode? So, but first, as the format of the show goes, we are going to start off. Um, Lord have mercy. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I'm rocking my representation of back when I was just super fan. I'm still a super fan, by the way. Don't think that I have fallen off in any capacity. But I bought this shirt because I was like, look, they got this shirt in Zazzle. I'm gonna buy it and represent. So I said, let me represent today since we are talking Trek. Um, if you don't know, Discussing Network is my friend Clarence's network of podcasts, but he also has Discussing Trek, which was of much importance to me back in the day. Uh, and you can follow Discussing Network and Discussing Trek wherever you get podcasts, and also right here on YouTube and Facebook if you're watching on Facebook. Don't forget to do that. So let's get into some news. And it was very light on news, unless there was something that I missed. And if there was, please put it down in the comments. But if there was something I missed, I'm sorry. The only thing that I saw was um, an extensive interview that was done with Akiva Goldsman and for Variety Magazine, and he was discussing what we can expect for season 3 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. And I thought that there were a few little sound bites that were worth sharing. So here is bite number 1. When asked, what can we expect for season 3? He said, we're going to keep going. We genre hop. So where we haven't been, we will try to go. Henry's watchwords for season 2 were, let's do season 1 just bigger and better. Now, some of us, we might have different opinions on whether they were able to accomplish the goal of being bigger and better than season 1. I guess I can honestly say, if we're talking about bigger, it was bigger. They took more risks with season 2, and in a lot of cases the risks paid off. However, that doesn't mean it was better than season 1. I think season 1 was some of the best Trek, especially for a first season of a series. Man, I couldn't ask for a better first season. Not saying that season 2 was horrible. It's just when in comparison to season 1, I think there was just a little bit of drop in what to expect, and there are probably plenty of reasons why that is. Um, Happy birthday, Justin. I forgot. Happy birthday to you and Dreamwalker. If Dreamwalker watches this, I know he's going to be pretty busy for the time being. He's getting prepared for this, I forgot what it is, a big hike or something like that he's doing. So if Dreamwalker is watching, happy birthday to you as well. But Justin, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Do you want me to sing? If y'all want me to sing, I'll sing. I'm not a singer, though. I'm going to let y'all know that right off top. So, the watchwords for season 2 were, let's do season 1 just bigger and better. That's become the truth of season 3. We're always doing the thing that we do best, which is secretly just a lot of relationship stories in space. Now, was that a secret? It's not a secret to me. And that's what some of the people who are doing the most complaining about Star Trek Strange New World, Star Trek Discovery, those series, is that, oh, it's just a soap opera. Uh, I'm not getting soap opera vibes off of it, but I do see that it is very centered on relationships, and that doesn't bother me. Now, some people are not. I got to turn this up. Told you my grandson been busy. Um, some people are just not interested in or the deeper dives into how these people get along. They just want some Strange New Worlds and a lot of sci-fi action. And I get it. If that's what you're looking for, that's what you're looking for. It's nothing wrong per se with that. But if once you see that the direction that this production is going in, you either like it or you don't. And what I don't like is just continue to beat a dead horse about the same things week after week. Uh, Even though I'm still complaining about the decision about Star Trek Prodigy, I'll complain about that every week, all week. However, if this show is not what I expected, if it wasn't what I wanted to see, there are things that I can do, which is just not watch it. So they think that it's a secret that they were doing relationship stories in space, but it's been no secret. So Akiva Goldsman goes on to say, we'll keep unfolding those, hopefully in ways that are different, in the same way that the tones of our episodes will be different. One of the things that was kind of jarring, especially, and I get the complaint that this is a 10 episode season, and jumping back and forth between genres and between tones can get to be a bit exhausting. Not saying that it was for me, but I can see how some people feel that way. But yeah, ambition will taper off only when we can't figure out a thing to do that we haven't done before. So this is going to be another season. When we look at season 3, it's going to be another season of big swings, and I'm here for it. I'm going to pick up comments. We got the happy birthday greetings from Win Grace. We got and hello there, Win Grace. Sorry. We got happy birthday greetings from Clarence. And then Justin is saying, thank you. Everyone, happy to be here with you. Tasha, you sing with heart, I bet. Oh, yeah. Now, I act like I can sing. But spending it with you and in the chat is a blessing. And I'm glad to have you here, especially on your big day. Claire says, agreed. Relationships are the thread of Strange New Worlds, but from a very Trekkie perspective, though. And I get that, yes. Um, Wigray says, what's really jarring is just realizing Battelle was Mrs. McMurray from Letterkenny. I didn't watch Letterkenny. I have to get on my square with these shows so that I can recognize these people too. Um, but yeah, so no surprise to any of us here. Relationships in stories in space, and it does have a very Trek feel to it because some of these characters we know go on um, to be in TOS, and we don't explore a lot of the side relationships. We're only exploring the relationships between uh, Spock, Kirk, and McCoy. Really, we get a real good feeling for those three characters and how their friendship formed and how they relate to one another and what they bring to Kirk as far as being the devil and the angel on his shoulder from time to time. But as far as how that crew got along together as a unit, we don't explore that as much. And I like that we are exploring it here. And I like that we are getting into the relationships and how they are making it tie into what we see on TOS. I'm here for it. Um, we have Okay, so Clarence has never seen it. I don't feel so bad. Clarence has never seen Letterkenny either. And Justin enjoyed season 2 overall. Season 3, I'm on board with. But Lex Kirk is my one request. I'm going to pin that comment because I'll need it a little later. Um, then also, we had Akiva Goldsman go on talking about how or whether we will see other TOS characters show up in the life, I guess, of Strange New Worlds. And he's saying on introducing these characters, we don't meet our understanding of who they are in that series, meaning in Strange New Worlds. We don't get a full understanding of who these characters are. He says we meet who they are before in Strange New Worlds. TOS, these characters have had an opportunity to mature. They are quite different from what we remember. That's been an I guess an argument or a complaint for some of the people who don't like Strange New Worlds, who are not feeling this season, is that these characters, the legacy characters, are not representing what they saw in TOS. And I'm like, let's see, 10 years ago, because this series we started meeting them in it's at least 7 years, was it, before the events of TOS? But let's go even 10 years ago. I was an entirely different person than I am sitting right here. 10 years ago, you might not recognize me as the same person. And you know what? That's the way it should be. I should look similar, similar, not the same. I should look similar. There should be some core. things about me, about my character that doesn't change. But as far as who I am as a person, a lot of that has formed over the last decade. And I think I think we forget that that is not a trait that is exclusive to the Star Trek Strange New Worlds characters, but it's something that all of us deal with. So much has changed in the last 5 years of my life. But for people who have been following me for a long time and remember how much I always talked about my daddy, I lost my daddy. I gained a grandchild. I'm about to gain another grandchild. I gained the children's mothers. Uh, my orbit is entirely different. So I'm a different person. And I'm okay with growing. Hopefully I continue to grow because when you stop growing, you start dying. Clarence says, I think we need to abandon James T. Kirk for the remainder of Strange New Worlds. I'm pinning that too. When Grace says, uh, I still think they're trying to set up a first command of Kirk show for Strange New Worlds season 3. They're spending so much time on Kirk, plus the characters we know are returning outside of La'an. Look, I'm gonna go back to that article because something that you said kind of is hit upon in the article, and I didn't make a slide for it, but I think it's worth talking about. Let's see. I got to remember what he said, and I'm going to have to put spectacles on. Okay, so I'm going to read, picking up from when he started talking about Scotty and more TOS characters. So another big surprise in the finale was the introduction of Scottish actor Martin Quinn as Montgomery Scotty Scott. Regarding Quinn, Scotty Myers confirmed with TV Line, we will see him more. He also talked about why they chose now to introduce the character. So, Henry Alonzo Myers said, we've been talking about him for a while as a general idea. As we were going into the finale, it suddenly became a weird, rare opportunity to introduce him for a lot of different reasons. What we like to do with the characters from the original Star Trek series, we don't meet our understanding of who they are in that series, we meet who they are before. They don't know who they will be, and they aren't that person yet. They have some stuff to go through. Let's see. Goldsman made it clear to TV Line, and this is in a different interview, that we should expect more, saying it starts to become inevitable that we start to pull in more folks that are sort of TOS based. The longer we stay on air, the more likely it becomes. Given our druthers, because Henry and I are both greedy and gluttons for punishment, we'd go right into the TOS era and see what happens. So if we're around long enough, they will. So something that we have been kind of speculating is whether or not the plan is to overlap with TOS. It looks like that's what the plan is, that they're going to overlap with TOS at some point, at least if they get enough seasons to explore it. So it's not looking like they're going to do it season 3, but it looks like that's exactly where they want to go. So I think, it's something that we can definitely look forward to, because it does only make sense. There is a lot of there's still a lot of meat on the bone of the TOS characters and some of situations that we could get them into. Uh, Clarence said, with all that said, I do think the transition season will be magic whenever we get there, whether it be a Kirk spinoff directly or directly into TOS. I think that can be, yeah, it could be amazing to see. Especially there are episodes of TOS where we learn that Kirk and his crew have visited a planet before and they are returning to that planet. We have an opportunity to see them go to the planet the first time if we started to bleed into TOS, and I'm here for it. Um, Justice says he liked Kirk this season, but just wants Pike's crew to get their time. And so I'm going to pin this comment as well because it is going to lead into something we'll be talking about later. Clarence says having Scotty on the ship could also mean there will be more Trekkie-centric ship-specific content. And I mean, are we talking like, oh, so stuff that's just happening on the ship? I don't know if I'm understanding. Clarify. Wingray says by the time we're done with the strike and they get to the transition period, Kirk will be the youngest captain in Starfleet at 50 years old. Let's hope not. Let's hope we see some resolutions sometime soon with these strikes because they've gone on too long. And I think the studio heads are starting to figure it out like, oh shit, we underestimated their resolve. Honor about the ship. Edges warp. Okay, I get you. Yeah, we can start seeing stuff like that. And I think that, okay, the handoff from Pelia to Scotty, do we think Scotty is going to first and foremost just come on the ship? Pelia is going to be like, okay, it's in good hands and be gone? Or do we think that there will be an overlap of their tenures on the ship? Tell me what y'all think about that. But yeah, there were some good nuggets in that variety interview. And of course, I forgot to put the link in the show notes. So I'm going to have to put the link somewhere so y'all will see it. Because I did forget to put it in the show notes. At least I think I did. So yeah, after that, that's all I had for news. So we're going to go straight into Beyond the Holodeck. And this is kind of just a opinion type question. This is no right or wrong answer to it. The question that was posted on Reddit by a user named Sharia: who's the most Vulcan? And by most Vulcan, I mean most logical and emotion free. Now, this user said that they would say Tuvok on a good day, but I only caught up to Enterprise now. So tell me, in your own opinions, who is the most Vulcan of the Vulcans? And would you think that if this person just now starting to watch Enterprise, with them saying Tuvok, would they need to change that because we meet T'Pol? Let me know in the comments. So we got Wingray saying Scotty is going to start as a junior member. I thought from day one he should have been just another low-level engineer and work his way up. It sounds like that's the more logical way of looking at it. Even if he is a prodigy as far as just this whiz kid at engineering, and specifically as he gets to know Enterprise, the ship. Even though he has that talent, he still has to work his way up to being the Montgomery Scott that we know from TOS. Now, Wingray says he usually argues Tuvok as the most Vulcan. And, I can see the argument for that. There were very few times that we saw a crack in Tuvok's armor. And I mean, as one of the leads, one of the main characters in the crew, we hardly ever saw him crack. And I think T'Pol began to crack when she got into that relationship, or after the mind meld disease that she had, and after she got into the relationship with Trip, she began to change. Spock is Vulcan/human, and we've seen a crack in his armor many times. And who else? Who else do we have for Vulcans? Clarence is saying Sarek and T'Pol were the most Vulcans. Maybe up to the point where she got the and I know she got the transmitted disease, but it wasn't. It was mentally transmitted disease. Once she got the mentally transmitted disease, then we started to see cracks in her armor. Spock for a long time was the most Vulcan. I don't agree. I think, like, even going from the episode Charlie X, if we look at that episode that somebody posted, a clip from the episode of Uhura singing, but in that episode, while he was playing the lute, Spock was smiling the entire time Uhura was singing. He was smiling. That was very early in let's see, I'm gonna look and see what episode that was. And of course, the character was still evolving. They were still trying to figure out who let me see, Charlie X, Star Trek. Gosh. It was season 1, episode 2. Yeah, season 1, episode 2. In season 1, episode 2, Spock was smiling. Was just what's up, D? Good to see your face in the place. But yeah, so Spock, even then, wasn't fully emotionless. I think he is the one that I give the most leeway to because of his human side. But yeah, I think he's actually probably the least Vulcan. But that's my opinion. That's my opinion. Tuvok is also very Vulcan. I kind of agree that it's out of main characters besides Sarek, who was the dictionary definition of Vulcan. when you look the word Vulcan up, you see Sarek. Besides him, it's Tuvok to me. Tuvok. Wingray says T'Pol also got that irreversible brain damage from Trillium D as well. Yeah. So she lost all her blocks. Yeah, she was not. She was, yes, her mind took a beating. It really did. Wingray says similar to Worf, Spock tried to be the stereotype of a Vulcan, but he moved beyond that. Yes, he became than more than the sum of his parts, human and Vulcan. Justice says, I would agree, but for 25 years, that was the argument between Spock and McCoy. Just my opinion. I think that's because McCoy, you ready for me to say it? McCoy was just racist. He was judging Spock for his Vulcan, not even acknowledging the human side of Spock. He was judging Spock for being a Vulcan, the Vulcan side of him, and expecting, almost putting the pressure on him to maintain his Vulcan stoicism. And it was almost like, even though they were friends now, don't get me wrong, they were friends. It was just the era that this show was made in. McCoy was racist. Claire says, I can agree with Tuvok too. Yeah, I think that's close. Vorik, oh, the Voyager engineer. Gosh, and he was the only thing I remember about him was from the Ponfar episode. So true, he was, but Spock was very anti-human back then. Eh, agree to disagree. Clara says, I loved how they turned that around on Enterprise, and T'Pol was judging the humans. Exactly. That's what I think. I thought it was, of course, we don't have to go all the way off onto this tangent, but I really did think that there was a play on how that went both ways, especially in that era. In that era of from the formation of Starfleet and humans getting out into the stars, from there to the end of the TOS run, we saw that there was some bigotry between these two species, and being a person who is caught in the middle of basically being mixed species as Spock is, I don't think he had an issue with humans or Vulcans. He was forced in that era to choose who he was and who he was going to choose to identify with. And I don't know if they realized it at the time, but mixed race children and youngsters, young people are forced to do that same thing, especially if they live in an area that is predominantly one or the other, then they're forced to choose. And they can find themselves feeling like Spock. That's just my opinion. Um, so Justin says Spock was a bigot too, and so was McCoy. If you see it that way. Say we'll have to disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I really thought this was now wasn't too technical of a question, and there is no basically right or wrong answers. It's just what you think. But yeah, it was a good question to exercise our brains so we can talk about something else that is very subjective, which is Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 2. And the first thing we're going to get into is what did we think were some of the shining moments in Season 2? Now that it's all said and done, and we have had an opportunity to take it all in, to sit back and think about what this season brought to the whole franchise, I suppose. Now we can start to dissect. In your opinions, what were some of the shining moments of season 2? And for me, shining moments were some of the big swings. Uh, love you too, Justin. You know, it ain't never personal. I love to I love the discourse. We could talk about it, chop it up, and then throw it to the side. And so let's get into season two's big moments. Norman said those old scientists is definitely one of the best crossovers, not just Trek, but in general. I have to agree. I thought the episodes that they called big swings, for me, they hit the mark. I loved uh I loved those old scientists, and I loved the Subspace Rhapsody musical episode. Let me think now. Was there anything else? Of course, Shining Moment, season 2, episode 2, Ad Astra Paraspora, with the introduction of Nira. I I didn't know that I was going to love that character the way that I did. Hopefully, we get to see her again. And then shining moments were how much time we got to spend with and in the mind of Mbanga made me really have a different appreciation for this character. Um, Clarence says that those scientists is up there with trials and tribulations for me. I have to agree. These the they knocked it out of the park. For those old scientists, they knocked it out of the park. The actors understood the assignment. We had um gosh, why can't I think of this boy's name? What are we gonna call him Boimler? Because I can't think of his name. Quaid. Yeah. We had him and Mariner and Tawny Newsome. I have to think of their names, Lord. We had them come in and physically embody their characters in the real world. I thought they did an absolutely spectacular job. And it was a light-hearted episode that had stakes. You know, it did continue. The events meant something for the rest of the season. It wasn't just the standalone, we could have done without it episode. There were stakes involved and implications that went on for the remainder of the season, probably for the remainder of the series. So yeah, that episode, they outdid themselves as far as crossovers go. Let me pick up Justin here. Justin said episode 2 and episode 8 were perhaps some of the best Star Trek ever. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, I think I agree. I agree. Wingray says, do you think we'll get any direct follow up to this crossover in this season of Lower Decks? Well, we do hear them indirectly mention it, like saying something about that time we met Pike that we're not supposed to talk about. That's what Mariner said. So I don't know if we're going to bring it, if it's going to play a major role in the season. Hopefully we at least visit it more than just that little throwaway line. Even though, as far as the way Lower Decks, the way they roll, that might be all we get. How they are, uh, they throw out a Easter egg, and then just, if you know what we're talking about, you know what we're talking about. If you don't, you don't. And maybe that's all we'll get. But hopefully we get a little bit more of a mention of what happened in that episode. I would hope so. Justice says they were so deep and made us look at our own viewpoints on life and subjects, and that's the Trek I love most. Stuff like I mean, you guys, I'm pretty sure at this stage of the game, you guys know how my mind works. In those episodes like that have a philosophical kind of angle to it. And most Trek does, but these two episodes did it very well, where you can take it and dissect it, and it can be one thing to one person and something else entirely to someone else. And those episodes did an awesome job of being something that will make us talk, will make us, as the shirt says, make us discuss Trek. uh the crossover was very good. You enjoyed that a lot as well, Justin, and you say you hope they do that again. I hope so too. Again, they say that the next season they're going to take more swings, kind of like they did this season. I'm here for it. Let's go. Let's go. They're going to do things that they haven't done before. As long as they don't make them dress up in furry costumes and have them running around the ship or something silly like that, then I'm good. Try whatever you want to do. Make it. There has to be a Trek reason for it, much like they did with Subspace Rhapsody, and there should also, there should be some line that we won't cross. Like, we ain't gonna do nothing this stupid. Okay. So, any other shining moments for you guys? I'm trying to think. Do I have any more? You guys hit the ones that I would have hit right out off the bat, which is Ad Astra, the crossover episode. Excuse me. The musical episode, the things that we got to see with Mbanga, the exploration in the consequences of war, and how people who were uninvolved in that conflict could see it different. You know how Uhura, especially in Under the Cloak of War, Uhura was looking at uh, the Vulcan. What was his name, guys? Remind me. The Vulcan ambassador. They were looking at him, or she was. Uhura looked at him and took his actions right in this moment at face value. Whereas there is an entirely different feeling amongst the people who served in the war, because they saw this person at their worst. They saw him at their worst, and they did not forget it. And because the war it's only been a few years, it hasn't even been half a decade, has it? Maybe it had been half a decade since the war, and you're gonna bring a freaking whole war criminal on a ship with veterans, and asked them to play nice with him. Um, Uhura found it very easy. Pike found it easy or easier than the veterans did, but the veterans are feeling entirely different. And I understand why. And it gave us something to discuss. Could this person have redeemed themselves? Is this person really looking for redemption? Could this person be playing the goodwill of the Federation? Could this person be playing both sides of the fence? There are a lot of questions that were not necessarily answered in the episode, which is why the open end of that episode leaves a lot of discussion to be had. Did Mbanga kill him? Did he kill himself? We could talk about this for a very long time, and trust me, I'll be coming back to this episode a lot because of the philosophical angles and questions and discussions that we can have around it. I love that type of stuff. Um, Let me see. Wingray says maybe not a best moment, but the aliens who accidentally turned Spock human, they were a really fun concept without much exploration of them. We'll pin it. Even though we're going into this next thing, but I don't want to forget these comments that you all made that kind of go into where we're going next. Justice says, and the crew just getting time on screen and knowing more of them and seeing their strength and talents. That was great. Also, shining moments. We got some good crew moments. We got to see them be more than just a crew to one another. They started to become family, especially seeing the change. And I almost forgot. And we saw a change in Una. Now, in the cage going pilot episode that we probably were never meant to see, but it was released at some point. We got to see Una in the cage. She was the Vulcan type character in the cage. Spock was not. Spock was happy go lucky and smiling and all that shit in the cage. Una was the one who was rigid, very stern, very by the book. So if we are to assume that this is, this is the same Una, of course, and it is, if this is the same Una, then we have watched her kind of drop her guard over these years from the cage all the way to Strange New Worlds to the point now that she doesn't even feel like she needs to put up this wall between herself and the crew because of her experiences and because of the way they had her back. We have seen a fundamental change in Una as a character as well. Just some of the things that we have to, we think about as this series moves along, how these characters are the same as the ones that we knew from other iterations of Trek and how they have changed, how they are different. Clarence says, at Wingrace, those aliens felt so much cooler than Species 10C. It's almost like Strange New Worlds learn from the mistakes of their big brother and or sisters, huh? I mean, we still have, of course, we still have people who do have issues with a lot of Strange New Worlds, but we can see that the attempt at making things a little bit better, fleshing things out a little bit more. Hopefully, we see those aliens again. Justice says, I agree. A full human Spock was intriguing and fun. That that wasn't as fun to me, but that will be something that we're gonna go into in the next one. After I pick up these last couple comments, we'll move on. Clarence says, not sure why I compare those, but I think both were high concept. Yep. Norman says there has to be a follow-up. It can't just exist on its own. Somehow, both Mbanga and Chapel need a follow-up in a future episode. Yep. And Wingray says, yeah, 10C was cool, but this felt more tactile, if that makes sense. It was more thought out, and we got And the 10C, that kind of they kind of jumped the shark with it, with just that concept. With the concept of the 10C, they started off like, I cannot wait to find out what these are. And then I was satisfied when they found out what they were. But the means that they used to communicate with them, even though I think we all saw it coming, I just, it was that whole typewriter thing. That thing bothered me first and foremost. And then the fact that we knew that this empathy bomb was going to come from book. But that's another series. I did like the final episode of Star Trek Discovery. Was that season 3? But what's the season? Anywho, I don't remember what season it was. It was season 4. Season 4. But it was just that resolution kind of, yeah. It wasn't as bad as that thing we don't talk about, right? um Clarence says, I want them to bring more characters from the cage into Strange New Worlds. He wants Bryce and Yeoman Colt. We could have it. Bring that on in. As a matter of fact, I got 7 comments that I kind of saved because they're going to go very well into our next little segment, which is more of this, less of that. So we talked about the shining moments, and some of you all shared some of what you would like to see more of and what you would like to see less of. So I'm gonna pick those up, and then if you got anything else you want to add, because some of your comments are very much like mine. Well, one of the things that I like to see more of course, is more big swings, take more chances, um, be more open to try new concepts for Star Trek, even though there are some things that we feel like are just cookie cutter, and you got to have this kind of episode, you got to have that kind of episode. I still feel like there is room for Star Trek to grow, and uh, as an old fan or some of the newer fans, their input needs to be considered as well when making series. If we only cater to the people who have always been around, eventually, I've said this a million times, eventually we're gone, and what do you have? A dead fandom. So take big swings, attract new people, and grow the franchise. So those are some of the things that I like. So Clarence is jumping this off with his last comment. I want them to bring more characters from the cage into Strange New Worlds. Um, more of this, less of that. So more of that. Give us more of the not just legacy characters that we had an opportunity to explore and learn and know a little bit about. Bring in some of these obscure ones. When are we going to meet Gary Mitchell? Will we meet Gary Mitchell? Big questions. We know that he has to eventually show up, right? So when are they going to put him on the Enterprise, or will we meet him and God forbid Kirk? Because some of you all was like, let's just go away from that, which we'll get to. Will we meet him and Kirk and just in passing, and he's like, hey, this is my friend Gary Mitchell? Or will we get to spend some time with Gary Mitchell before this whole I'm gonna be a god and where no man has gone? When we get to that episode, we do learn a bit about Gary Mitchell, but I would like to spend some time with the character. Let me know if that's something that you want to see. Okay, so we'll go back where Justice says he enjoyed season 2 overall, but he wants less Kirk. He's not the only one that wants less Kirk. Clarence also wants less Kirk. He says, abandon Kirk, abandon James Kirk anyway. For the remainder of Strange New Worlds, I myself say I could do it less. I could do it less. I wouldn't mind seeing him again, but for every major thing that happens on this Enterprise, we do not need to have Kirk be involved. I know you want to. You've made this fantastic hire as a character or as an actor for Kirk, but we don't need to see Kirk on this Enterprise. This isn't his enterprise. If we're going to explore a Kirk on this enterprise, you got one. Explore Sam Kirk, flesh that character out, make his death hurt a little bit more when we get to it in TOS. You know what I'm saying? Some more Sam Kirk, less James T. Kirk, if you ask me. Um, Justin says less Kirk, and Clarence just like he tired. He don't have to see Kirk, not James T. Um, Justin is going on about Kirk. He liked Kirk this season, but he wants more of Pike's crew to get their time and somewhat free of the TOS legacy. I agree with that. Now, does that mean to me, does that mean that we don't slowly introduce some other background characters or supporting characters for TOS? I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. What I don't want to see is this become Kirk's enterprise too soon. It was already bad enough when we were in, was it Subspace Rhapsody, when they called Kirk and he is the Kirk that they wanted? No, on that ship at that time, the Kirk that they should have been calling should have been Sam. Point blank and period. And Wayne Grace is going to give us something. He was talking about the aliens who turned Spock human. He wants a little bit more of that. I can agree with that. Give us more of these species. And then speaking of um, more of some of the uh, kind of flowery or not flowery. I can't think of the word. Here I go again. I promise I'm not going to be thinking about this for a week. But more of the more flamboyant characters that we have met before. We don't have to meet that character, but meeting more from their species would be fantastic. Justin is agreeing about this full human Spock was intriguing and fun. I would like less, not less of Spock for sure, but less of making him a, I guess a funny character, comic relief. Not saying that he should never be funny. Of course, he should be funny, but many of the explorations of Spock in season 2 were done in making light or fun of him. And while it was okay for 1 or 2 episodes, it's not okay for us to live in that spot, because then it goes back to what I was saying about being forced to choose. And you got uh, this mixed species character, and people are making fun of him because he's mixed species. And that may not be the way anybody else looks at it, but it's the way I'm looking at it. And I might be being a little uh, I guess I might be being a little sensitive because I love Spock, especially the Leonard Nimoy Spock, but I love Spock, the character. And I just don't want everybody laughing at him. uh, Norman said there has to be, oh, we talked about that one. He also wants more Mbanga and Chapel, and he wants more of that species from the episode Charades. He wants more of that as well. Clarence, we talked about that. So going back to our live comments, there are a lot of them. CCC. Yeah, that's that word. We cannot say that. We can't say that word. Oh gosh, Angus wants more disco Klingons. I wouldn't mind seeing it simply because it would explain that there are all these different kinds of Klingons. These Klingons still exist, and they did all this remarkable stuff to their skin and hair during wartime. But this is how they look really. Don't give me something. Give me something. Maybe Yeah, if this is a warrior, even more of a warrior cast than the other Klingons, explain that. Give us that at least. Um, Wingrace wants to bring back Dr. Boyce temporarily while Mbanga is under arrest for his trial. Why we arrested him? We still got to get him off the Gord ship, and you want him under arrest? I know that he needs to. At some point, there will be some comeback to what happened between him and that Klingon ambassador. He wants Dr. Boyce played by Jeffrey Combs. I'm here for it. We need more Jeffrey Combs. Claire says they replaced Transporter Chief Kyle this season with Transporter Chief Joe. Oh my gosh. Oh, Boyce, not Bryce. Is Bryce in Discovery? Is that where? Because it sounded so right to me that I continued to I went right past it because I think Bryce was in Discovery. Was he not? Norman says, Mortegas. Thank you. Somebody finally said more Ortegas. She does more than give clips, fly the ship, and be a war hero. Yeah, now we need to know about the person, who she is, and what more. Give quips, give quips. Yeah. Yeah, there's more to her than her job. And yeah, and her experience in the war. While it is, I think, necessary to explore that even in more detail, uh we need to know what makes her tick. What we need to know more about the character. Clarence says, I think we can have more encounters with James T. Kirk, but without him ever coming on the ship. An occasion excuse me, an occasional cameo on the view screen would be better. Just once in every blue moon. Hey, I'm still around. Hey, I got promoted. Hey, now that I'm doing this, he had already been promoted. So this is what I'm doing next. And I was asked to check in with you all for this or that. Bye. Yeah, he don't need to be in the center of attention. I agree. There's a lot of stream elements reminders going on in these comments, but that's all good. That's all good. Y'all need to see that shit. Justice says we want the moments like in Star Trek 4 and 6. He was the Spock we loved, but he would still let us see the human side and would show love for both sides and his crew. He if there's nothing else that we should get from Spock, and we have been getting it, is his sense of loyalty to the people that he serves with. Um, we saw it in episode 1 of Star Trek: Strange New World season 2. We saw it in what is it, The Broken Circle. We have seen it again. Of course, we saw it many times in TOS, specifically when he stole the ship to save Pike, and we've seen it throughout the movies and everything subsequent. We have seen that is part of his character. He is a loyal individual, and even though we got a lot of his more serious stuff that he does is coming in later Star Trek French series, I still want to see us laying the groundwork for how becomes who we remember him as. Now, we did get a glimmer of it because after he did the blood wine negotiations in episode 1, we saw him do it again. We are seeing him become more and more of a diplomat. He is willing to learn the ways of another culture so that he can go into that culture and uh, advocate for or against some position of that community without it sounding or being judgmental. It's kind of Picardish. More Tegas. Gosh, let's get that trending somewhere because I like that. Piggybacking from your conversation last week, more episodes. Give us more episodes. I feel you. I feel you. That's a good one. And Justice says, I agree. I don't want Spock to be comedy relief. Not every episode, not every time we feature him and he's the central episode, does he need to be you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and sometimes it's okay. Sometimes. I can't wait till we get to the point where he is more the straight guy in these situations. Um, when we have these comedic situations, somebody needs to be the unfunny one. You know, somebody has to be the one who plays it straight, and it generally should be Spock. I hope I'm not generalizing, but yeah, it should be Spock who's playing the straight man most of the time. Yeah, a little bit here, a little bit there, but little bit, just a sprinkle. All right. If y'all don't have anything else that you want more or less of, I'm, I'm just gonna pull into the rankings. Let's rank these episodes. This is, of course, my rankings. This ain't gonna be your rankings. Your rankings are not gonna be the same as my rankings because unless we think that much alike, and then yay, but that's not how it generally goes. Everybody has an opinion. Now, what I would like to see, we know it's 10 episodes, and I know nobody has these episodes written down. So you can either tell me where you would place this episode that I'm talking about, or you can say you would put it higher or lower than where I have it. Also, if you remember like how you were feeling in the moment of watching this episode, what did you rank it when you watched it? Because or what did you rate it? What did you rate it on that 1 to 5 scale that I use? I'm going to tell you what I rated it up on my initial viewing of it because you know it's recorded for posterity, but I'm going to tell you what I rated it, and I'm going to, of course, show you the ranking, and I'll just give you a little synopsis of what I was thinking about when I did these rankings. With all that being said, let's go. Number 10. My number 10 is The Broken Circle. That one was the distress call from Lieutenant Noonien Singh compels Spock to disobey orders, take the USS Enterprise and its crew into disputed space, risking renewed hostilities with the Klingons in a bid to aid their shipmate. I gave this one as a rating 4 out of 5. And I guess what I did not like, one of the things that kind of threw me about this episode, and I won't say that I didn't like it, was it I was ready to pick up where we left off last season. That's a me thing. That's not a them thing. Okay. But that does play into why I would rank this episode 10, why I always felt like this was out of the 10 episode season, this was the weakest one for me. Um, there was a lot that was we began to explore. We did get some payoff. I just talked about Spock having to do diplomatic negotiations with the Klingons again after the events of Subspace Rhapsody. And I also talked about how we began to explore the post war trauma of Mbanga in Chapel. But still, for me, this was the weakest episode of the season. Um, Wait a minute. Wingray says, I haven't processed this season being one, and you're already ranking this. Ben, I'm missing something. I'm sorry. Clarence says the Broken Circle was very tropey in parts, but a decent setup episode. And when you come at it from the position of it being a setup episode, it does start to sit a little bit better. Oh, okay. I haven't processed this season being over, and you're already ranking this. Well, I have to. I was told to do. Look, I was recommended. Nobody told me. Okay, I was recommended to do or season in review. So I had to review this entire season. I had to go back and watch my reviews, the ones that I was able to record. And I know while we're talking about that, before I get to number 9, I know there are some people who miss my kind of scripted, recorded content. And you guys know that there was a freaking comedy of freaking circumstances that happened. I got sick. Then honestly, I didn't have the money to pay for one of my services that I use in making those videos, and I just didn't feel like making the kind of more mediocre. I didn't feel like doing it differently than what I had been doing it. So I know that it is disappointing that I had fallen off of my recorded content. Now that we're in between seasons, I'm going to try to record a whole bunch of shit and get ahead so that even when, because it's going to happen again, even when I am unable to pay for my editing and my the other stuff that I do, the other stuff that I use. When I'm unable to pay for that stuff, I will already have some stuff done. But it's getting hard to do because I have to chase a 1-year-old now, and I got another one coming. So I'm probably going to have surgery on my ear. You guys know, but we'll talk about if remind me to talk about the surgery after we get through with the ratings. I don't want to I don't want to make this into that kind of session. If you're interested in knowing about the surgery, I'll talk about it on the other side. All right. So, but I apologize. I do. Um, Justice says, I agree. It was a good set up episode. Trek by Numbers will return. It's just a matter of when. Hey there, Lysandra. Welcome home, girl. She's finally home from the hospital. So I'm glad to see her face in the place. Yeah, man. So we already talked about number 10. Let's go number 9. Number 9 for me was Among the Lotus Eaters. Wasn't a bad episode. Was it the best episode? Among the Lotus Eaters was returning to a planet that dredges up tragic memories. Captain Pike and his landing party find themselves forgetting everything, including their identities, as he confronts a ghost from his past. And still, even though this one is ranked number 9 for me, I gave it a 4 out of 5. So I, you know, I was feeling some type of way about this episode. Um, wasn't a bad episode, like I said, and I think I will continue to repeat that. But it was for me, as far as the episodes that we got this season, it would be in the lower half. Wasn't the weakest, wasn't the best either for me. Uh, so far, Win Grace is right with me. I'm wondering when we're going to taper off from one another. Let's see. And I think at some point we will. Okay, so Justin says that one would have been higher for him. Okay. And I can't wait to see where the ones that I got high that you would put lower. I'm pretty sure it's coming soon here, Justin. Number 8, charades. I just told y'all I how I felt about charades. A shuttle accident leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by aliens, making him fully human and unprepared to face T'Pring's family during an important ceremonial dinner. I gave this a 4 out of 5 in as far as ratings went. I did like the episode. I didn't love the episode, So if there were a couple of episodes that I think I liked more, and I put them above it. That's all. This episode was funny. It did have its moments, specifically Pike's face during all of the times that we caught him like in the background drifting around. His expressions made those scenes for me, especially since everybody else was trying to be so serious in those moments, and to see his face and the stuff that he was doing. Anson Mount stole the show in those episodes. Now, Wingray said this episode blended together a bunch of great Trek ideas, but didn't explore any of them well enough, in my opinion. I think you were talking about Among the Lotus Eaters, and I think you said it better than I could. Um, Norman said, I'll sing where we'll disagree. Now, Clarence has got charades in his top 5. And I mean, I can remember you reviewing it, and how much more you seem to enjoy it than I did. I didn't hate it though. Again, did not hate the episode. Justin says it's a good place for that episode. When Grace wishes the A and B stories were swapped in this episode. Norman said that charades would have been 9 for him, so it would have been 1 lower. Pike's face was everything. His faces were everything. And T'Pring's father, yes, I forgot. T'Pring's father was everything in this episode as well. It was, between him and Pike, I think I laughed more about their situations, what was going on with them, than anything else in this episode. And the episode was funny. Don't get me wrong, it was funny. Number 7, Lost in Translation. We had a Uhura episode, and we were on a break. Yeah. Charades. A shuttle accident leads to nope. I'm talking about charades, and I'm supposed to be talking about Lost in Translation. Lost in Translations. Uhura seems to be the only one who can hear a strange sound. When the noise triggers terrifying hallucinations, she enlists an unlikely assistant to help her track down the source. I gave this a 4 out of 5. And believe it or not, there is, I think, one episode that I have ranked lower, rated lower, but they showed up on my rankings higher. I don't know how that happened. I think I just got a feeling. Norman loved Lost in Translation. Clarence ranked this one maybe 1 below where I have it, and Gwen Grace would have it higher on his list. I did, of course. I always say it. I loved the episode. I liked what they did with it, but when you start thinking about, we got 6 more episodes to even talk about, and 3 of them you already know where they're going. So, so there are 3 episodes technically that I kind of liked better, and we're going to get into number 5. Wait a minute. No, number 6. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow was the episode that I rated the lowest, I think, of this whole season. And this is me as the season was progressing. This is what I said when I initially rated this episode. I gave it a 3.75 out of 5. And this is the one where La'an travels back in time to 21st century Earth to prevent an attack that will alter humanity's future history and bring her face to face with her own contentious legacy. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you were saying good spot about Lost in Translation, Justin. Clarence says it's going to be pretty hard from here on out. It does get more difficult. A good place for this one. So, okay, I thought that you would see this one a little bit higher, but I'm glad that we agree. Now, Justice says this one would be number 9 for him. So again, it's just a difference in the way we would rank these episodes. I don't think any of us hated these episodes, but it is interesting to see if you had to rank them 1 through 10, where you would put them. Had great ideas, just felt messy. And Wingray says, I think I was slightly higher. So yeah, tomorrow did introduce us to some ideas about, number one, about the temporal Cold War. Uh, Number two, about how history was tweaked just a little bit because of that temporal Cold War. Gave us a little look at what the agency, I forgot the name of it, what they look like during the Strange New Worlds TOS kind of era, and it gave us some emotional, I guess, emotional development for Laan. But still, there were some elements we didn't have. Why did it have to be? Uh, Again, we keep going back to Kirk, and maybe we needed Kirk, and maybe it didn't have to be Kirk. But I didn't. It was so much about this episode that just was a little bit funky for me. It just was. Norman said lower middle for me. It was fine as a story for Laan, but I would argue stop doing time travel now and a way to save on budget. And I know that money is going to continue to play a factor. We can see where the money went this season. We really can. Um, Even though there was a couple of big moments in this episode, we know where the money went. And time travel into today's time period is what I meant. So bringing people to the 21st century and saying you guys time travel. No, y'all opened the door up and walked outside. And I understand that you have to do these kinds of things for budgetary reasons. Okay, so number 5, surprise, it's hegemony. Let me make sure I got that right too. Yeah, number 5 is hegemony, because I was doing this like at the last minute. When the USS Enterprise investigates an attack on a colony at the edge of Federation space, Captain Pike and his crew face the return of a formidable enemy. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. This is one of my, of course, obviously, one of my favorite episodes of the season. One of them. And still, here we are at number 5. It is sitting in the middle. It was a good episode, but there were still some things that about it that I felt were wonky. Number one, after you get over watching the episode, you start to realize how very low the stakes are now, because you've got captured by the Gorn several people that we know are going to survive this entire thing. We know that they are going to make it back to the Enterprise. They got all that plot armor around them. So, really, the characters who are on the chopping block that are on that other ship are just Laan and Ortega's. And really, are we going to get rid of one or the other of them? Probably not. So how are they getting out of this situation? I really feel like there will be some type of negotiation between the Gorn and the Federation, and Batel will sacrifice herself and say, they want me because I got all these eggs and stuff all up in me. So just send me over there and let them send our people back. Now, hopefully I'm wrong, because they got a whole year and some change to think about this and make any changes that they can make, so that I don't just be figuring shit out, because I don't want to figure it out, but it really feels like that would be uh, I guess a viable solution. Doesn't mean it is the only solution. So I feel like this was just not, it just didn't have as many stakes has it set itself up to look like it had. Justice says, agree with this ranking. Wingray says, I would probably move this down the list and keep the two you just mentioned ahead of it. Wow. Norman said, rating this and Under the Cloak of War is problematic for me, as I see both as incomplete. I can give you a rating, but may go higher or lower when we get more story. And I can agree with that. Right now, today, Hegemony is number 5 for me. When we get a complete story, it could move, it could change, but as far as this cliffhanger and oh my God, some of our crew is over on this Gorn ship. The crew that's over there, a lot of them, we know they ain't nothing gonna happen to them. So it's like, I'm not so scared. I just want to see how they're going to resolve it. I'm not afraid for our Enterprise crew members, except for Lon and Ortega, except for them. Wingray said, that's fair. They both need follow-up, but this needs way more conclusion than Cloak of War to me. Right. I think Cloak of War was meant to be obscure, have an obscure ending, and you fill in those blanks. Even though I do agree that we'll probably see this situation rear its head again, I think the obscurity of the ending was an intentional act. Whereas Hegemony, we're supposed to be wrapping this up, hopefully first episode of next season. Maybe not. We shall see. Number 4 for me. Number 4, those old scientists. You guys all know what this one was. An accident while investigating a time portal sends Ensign Brad Boimler through time from the 24th century, and Captain Pike and his crew must get him back where he belongs before he can somehow alter the timeline. Now, so much for that, huh? I gave this one a 5 out of 5 on my ratings. And the only reason this one isn't higher for me is because of the 3 episodes that are before it. This could have been much higher if these next 3 episodes hadn't happened. Now, Norman said this one is his number 1. And Wingray says, I don't remember this episode. It must be pretty bland. And Justin says this is number 3 for him. Okay, well, I think we're all close. Like, this top 5 is probably going to be some similar episodes, at least 4, or at least, maybe 3 out of the 5 will be in everybody's top 5 in some order, I guess is what I'm saying. And the things I've spoken about it, but some of the things I also liked about this episode, besides it not just being, haha, that was funny, that was a funny departure. Now let's get back to work and things that are going to be important as the season moves on. This was an important episode in this season because it sets up some tension between characters, and it also showed, I guess, all of that shit that we kind of talk about Lower Decks. We understand now why these characters do it, and it's almost like, they're trying to, it's almost like a person who quotes history all day. It's almost like some of the Star Trek fans that we know, who, when you say something and they have to come back with another obscure Star Trek reference, and then it becomes a Star Trek pissing contest, is which one of us knows more Star Trek facts, but we all love Star Trek. That's what Lower Decks, that's what those characters are. And hopefully you know what they're talking about, and if you don't, you don't. I'm not saying that this is something that I'm going to recommend to all of my friends. No, I'm not going to recommend Lower Decks unless this season of Lower Decks knocks it out the park. It'll be something that I watch, something that I discuss, and then I'll be like, okay, I can turn my brain off, enjoy it for what it is, but never speak of it again. And here we are speaking of this episode as one of the best of the season. Wingray says the real negative of this episode in hindsight is it feels like the Lower Decks episode visiting a Strange New Worlds episode. Not enough to make it bad, just noticeable. It does. I agree. And I agree, Clarence. Clarence says, I thought this episode made me like Lower Decks more until I went back and started watching season 3 before season 4 starts. We were talking on the Discord, which I don't think I have the link in the show notes today because I suck. I really, really suck. But we were talking on the Discord about whether or not I was going to, or I planned to watch Lower Decks again. Maybe I will. I only have to dedicate 5 hours. Maybe I could do it. We're gonna see because like I said, I got some shit coming up, and I might have a little time. I might have a little time. So yeah, for those old scientists, beautiful episode. One of my favorite of the season, and one of my favorite crossovers of all time. And Wingray says, I think Lower Deck season 2 is the best of the show. I was iffy, and 3 was a step backwards. I think I like 2. Is that the season that had Voyage douche? That was one of the smartest episodes of Lower Decks that I have seen since the show's inception. And I'm like, more of this, please. And they said, no. We're going to get close. There were some episodes that I did like in season 3, maybe 1 or 2 that I really liked, but none the way I liked Way Douche. I really, really enjoyed that episode. And Justice says this episode could have been bad, but they did super well with it. They did. It was a big swing. It could have went, they knocked it out of the park, but it could have easily been on the foul line, and and they kept it off of the foul line. It was a good episode. So, yay. Number 3, Under the Cloak of War. Like I said, I've been talking about my kind of episode. This fit the bill of being one of my kinds of episodes. Cerebral. We got a huge amount of character development for Mbanga. We got to know a little bit more about the experience of him in Chapel during the war. We got to see this antagonist who they did such a fantastic job with the antagonist, because I could not stand him from the moment I saw his face. I was like, I don't even like this. I don't like this character. And when a character is written well, so to the point where I don't like them on sight, it was meant for me to kind of side with Mbanga. And if you kind of liked him and thought he was an affable character, then you would be on the other side, and we would have this philosophical argument or discussion. And I love shit like that. I do. So this was absolutely one of my favorite episodes. And if these other 2 episodes did not exist, it of course would be number 1, but the other 2 episodes exist. So that was 2 for Justin. And Clarence says a good takeaway from this season is that they were competent in their big swings. Yes, indeed. They were not just trying to swing away. They were calculated. They only took the swing when it was right over the plate. And I appreciated that. I did. I really appreciated it, because I feel like Under the Cloak of War was another big swing. I feel like this could have really F the season because it was so dark. But then it takes me back to some of the other episodes of Star Trek that I love so much, to include The Siege of AR 558, to include Duet, to include what's the one, the other one. And you notice that there are a lot of them, they're all kind of coming out of the Deep Space Nine era for me. This gave me Deep Space Nine feels, and I loved it. And it was Pale Moon, Under the Pale Moonlight. All of those episodes, I got that vibe out of this one, and I truly appreciate it. In a shocking turn of events, this is Wind Grace's number one. You know, these top five could go any way. It was a deep episode. Yep. Clarence says it was a good spot for this one. I appreciate your endorsement, sir. This was, to me, if the other two episodes didn't exist, this episode would be it. This would be it for me. But the other two episodes, and starting with Subspace Rhapsody. And that's all I can say. Because, hold on just a second, y'all. I am going to return in just a second. Oh, wait a minute. I gotta let this one loop around again. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My grandson wanted me. You know, I mean, he really, really wanted me. Oh. So Justin saying, yes, this episode felt like TNG DS9 did. Norman said, I was open to this. I wanted to like this. And I kept staring at my phone. And the dancing Klingons moment turned me off. Tense for me. So that's all it took was those dancing Klingons, huh? Talking about Subspace Rhapsody. Yeah, I'm caught up now. I had to remember where I was too. Justin said it was number 4 for him. It was fun and they did good. Just felt other musical episodes were done better, but was still good. Right. We talking about in the context of this 10 episode season. Yeah, I can see it being um I can see it being lower for some. This is one that is just gonna go off of whether or not you liked the musical aspect of this episode. Um and where you put it is going to be your like or dislike. Me, honestly, I thought I was not gonna like this episode. And I think it shows up so high in my rankings because I gave it and I also gave it a 5 out of 5 as far as because I didn't expect to like it. I came in with the predisposition that I was not going to like this episode, but I was going to watch it because, of course, I have to talk about it. And I was like, I'll give it a chance, and it would probably be a couple of songs that I do like or whatever, but I'm not gonna like the episode. I walked through the door. I didn't even watch this episode when it first came on. I waited a little while to watch it. I bull you not. And the fact that when this episode went off, I turned it right back on. That just took me by surprise. And I guess that's why I've got it so high because I'm shocked at me. Like, I am shocked. I'm like, do I even know who I am anymore? Because this episode was so much better than I thought it would be. And here we are. Uh, when Grace says probably lower top half for me, maybe 4 as well. I can see that. Clarence is saying this is probably in the top 3 for him as well. I can see that. I can see any reason, like even Norman saying it's all the way at the bottom for him. Because if you walked into this thing and yeah, I'm hearing things, y'all. If you walked into this thing and you had a thought that you were not going to like it, and then you truly saw something that you didn't like Norman with the dancing Klingons, them dancing Klingons did it for Norman. I can get why this would drops all the way down to 10. But if I walked in this thing knowing that I was not going to like it, and I ended up liking everything about it, even the uh, half-baked science idea that they use to justify the singing. I enjoyed it too much. Too much. And there is only one episode left. And if you know anything about me, you knew that this was going to be my number 1. And that was Ad Astra per Aspera. It was a 5 out of 5 for me. And Commander Una faced court martial along with possible imprisonment and dishonorable dismissal from Starfleet, and her defense is in the hands of a lawyer who's also a childhood friend with whom she had a terrible falling out. Um, I'm still confused as to why they didn't just jump this season off with this episode, but I'm also not upset. I'm not upset that they didn't. We only had to wait till episode 2 to see the, I guess, the closing of the fallout of Una being an Illyrian. But to meet Nira, this really strong character played by, and I forgot her name, Yatiti. Cannot remember her last name. I'm gonna have to look it up. Man, this lady knocked it out of the park. And I'm spelling her name wrong, and that's why ain't no no results came up. Yatiti Badaki. Man, she ate this role. I really hope we get to see this character again. She literally ate it for lunch. um, very believable, very serious, uh, Gosh, she reminds me of somebody, and I'm talking real life somebody, and I cannot think of the somebody of the character reminds me of. But I really the still that I chose, I really liked the way she ripped into April, and then by the end of the episode, she used that as one of the strengths of the Federation. To me, fantastic. I loved it. Wish we'll get more of her. I loved her fashion, everything about her. Uh, um, this one was number 2 for Norman. Angus says half baked science is Star Trek. Well, this little half baked idea was really it was half. It was half baked. When Grace says, I don't know what's wrong with me, but this was in the middle for me, maybe 5. It might be that I was coming off the disappointment of episode 1. And for me, it's because how much I love this type of ish anyway. So courtroom legal dramas, I used to be really and truly into them. So uh, as a let's put it like this: when I was working in a casino in my late 20s, early 30s. First casino I worked at, I used to rush home. I used to be like, hurry up and count me out because I got to get home and watch Matlock. And they are like, "Are you 70 years old?" I wasn't even 30 yet. But I used to literally be like, "Can you please hurry and count me out so I can go watch Matlock?" This is my jam. If I'm not doing the sci-fi thing, it's probably this kind of courtroom slash true crime stuff. And these are conversations that I like to have. I thought this was a very well done courtroom episode. I know there are some who was like, "Oh, it wouldn't have flown in real court," but this ain't real court. This is TV. This is make believe. And as far as the make believe tribunal, I was digging it. I was here for it. Oh, yes. This reminds me, let's add Admiral April to the more of this category. I'm wondering how much more are we going to actually see Admiral April, because it feels like they filmed all his scenes in season 1 or something like that. Because we didn't get a good look at him in this season. Justice says, yes, this is my one. This is in my top 20 Star Trek of all time. It felt like TOS, TNG, DS9 rolled into one, yet it stands on its own, and it did it the Strange New Worlds way. I co-sign all of that. Wait, where's my pen? All of that. Clarence said this may be a few slots down for me, but it's definitely the courtroom drama we should have seen in Picard. Picard, let's just be real. I know everybody loves Picard season 3. I love Picard season 3, but the entire series should have been less about trying to make an action series and more about the diplomat, the litigator, the negotiator, the cerebral side of Jean-Luc Picard. Then he can get old as dirt and he would never lose a step because his mind would still be sharp as a tack because he's still Jean-Luc Picard. But when you start trying to have damn near 80 something year old Patrick Stewart being chased, and as much as we can muster up and see him moving really briskly in a brisk walk, and then that wore him out to the point where the next season of a show he was sitting down. So not that I didn't appreciate it. There was a lot I liked about seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Picard. Don't get me wrong, but the action angle, we could have left that alone. We could have made it more about the intellect of Jean-Luc Picard. So I agree with you, Clarence. I agree. Oh my gosh. Win Grace, did we just become best friends? I did that with Diagnosis Murder. I liked Diagnosis Murder too, but not as much as Matlock. When he was like 15, though, you were really young. So for me, through childhood, it was Columbo. And then and moved to like Murder She Wrote and Matlock and Diagnosis Murder. I liked the British one. Oh gosh, why can't I think of it? And I know, I just know that I'm about that courtroom or crime drama life. I'm about that life. Justice says, haha, me and my grandmother always watch Matlock and Perry Mason. I love Perry Mason too. So I get what you mean, Tasha. Love Perry Mason as well. That stuff that I used to do with my daddy. You know, we a lot of the stuff that formed Tasha started with my daddy. Yep. Justice says, I agree, Clarence. It could have been season 1 of Picard. And Wingrave says, I wanted Picard season 1 to be him fully retired, off doing an archaeological adventure, and maybe running into something that requires him to contact Starfleet or his old friends eventually. I can see that because it's more in line with what a person his age would be up to. Not saying that he was doing so much when we first saw him in Picard, but then stuff started getting ridiculous. When going on these adventures sounds great and it's great in theory, but this man was too old to be trying to do all that ish. And I would have preferred to have seen him again use the intellect of Jean-Luc Picard and have other people doing the legwork. So there's that. Um, so that's it. I don't have nothing else, y'all. I thought this season. Oh yes, I do, because I had to rate the entire season. Rating this season. Now, for me, on my 1 to 5 scale, 5 is superior, 4 is excellent, 3 is average, 2 is below average, 1 is failure, right? It's almost like what we did at school, almost. So I averaged up all of the ratings that I gave episodes for the season. It came out to 4.38, which falls into right between that excellent and superior category. And I'm leaning more towards excellent. It was an excellent second season. It wasn't last season. Last season was a superior season to especially most first seasons of Star Trek. But excellent season. Hopefully we can build on this or at least just stay in excellence. Give me, if we got to 4.5, I'd be happy for next season. Give us, something similar to this season, but also more of what we saw kind of season 1 being. Also, I want to touch on one of the big complaints that we got about Strange New Worlds, the series, especially as far as season 2 goes. One of the arguments that was continuously made was that they promised us they would make episodes more like the original series. And I spent pretty much this entire season trying to figure out where that quote came from. Where did people see that? What was promised to us by the showrunners of Star Trek Strange New Worlds as it pertained to TOS was that these would be standalone episodes. It would be less serialized. They never, ever, ever said that they were going to make this show be just like TOS. Because if you want a show just like TOS, I'm going to give it to you the way Jay-Z said. Jay-Z said he's on his new-ish. I don't know if you guys remember this episode. He said, oh gosh, and I can't remember the quote now. It was right there. It's that song. On to the next one. But he was like, if you want my old, buy my old music. If you want the old stuff, watch. Y'all ready? Say it with me once with feeling. If you want the old stuff, watch the old stuff. This is a different series. The only promise that I could find that the showrunners made was that it would be more standalone episodes and less serialized. Have they given us that? I think they have. I think they have. So, number one, they understood the assignment because the assignment was give us some more standalone episodes. We don't need everything to be serialized. We need things to go blah, blah, blah. They gave us that. To me, season one was a stronger season altogether, but season two wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. um, when Grace, I'm in agreement, darling. I wish they'd bring short treks back. Would love to see a couple Strange New Worlds episodes, maybe a Sam Kirk adventure. Give us any more short treks. But now that they're talking about saving money and tightening the purse straps and the such, I doubt they're gonna give us any more short treks. I think we saw our last short treks, with that one where they were introducing some of the Strange New Worlds characters then. But yeah, it's heartbreaking because they were a good idea, but I bet we won't see them. Justice says if Picard was just commanding the Enterprise and giving those speeches and making us think, I would have been happy. Yeah, they didn't have to have him um, trying to be Superman, and then you introduce this aspect of him being a kind of an android, but he's still a little old man. So wouldn't he be strong beyond words, and wouldn't he have the stamina of say Data, and wouldn't he? But they had to make it a reason for that. And while I'm like, okay, y'all made a reason, that don't mean I like the reason, but okay, I get it. You guys made a reason. Yeah. And when Grace says, really? I could have sworn there was a quote that said something about Strange New World season 2 getting back to the promise of its title, but someone could have made that up. Now, I didn't look that up. I didn't look about what season 2. I was talking about the entire series. So the showrunners for the series, because that's what people say. They started with they said it's going to be more like TOS. Yeah, more like TOS in that these episodes will stand alone. They won't be as serialized. That is the part. Now this, uh, let's see. Mm-mm. You said nothing stronger than 1960s Midwestern America. Brain and brain. What is brain? Look, I'm trying to see. Okay, so April 19th, 2023, Star Trek Strange New Worlds first season 2 trailer promises Klingons and Kirk. Uh, certainly lives up to his title. The Star Trek Strange New Worlds cast and creators promise a format change for the better to open season 2. Let's pick that up. That's from June of 2023. As Star Trek Strange New Worlds kicks off its second season, expect a bit of a change up in its episodic structure and how Captain Christopher Pike does his captaining on the USS Enterprise. By that, we mean he's pretty scarce in the first 3 episodes. So that's because we know why that was, because of the baby and that. Mm, yeah, they did it by opening the season with character-centric episodes, particularly shining a spotlight on Spock. We wanted to give everyone room. Yeah, I don't. Okay, but that would take me really digging through all this, and I don't feel like it right now. But I might feel like it a little later this week. Now, I was going to tell you guys about surgery. I don't know how many of you know. I know I mention it every now and then. How I am very hard of hearing in my right ear, like extremely hard of hearing. And I went to have they do some diagnostic shit to my ear every now and then, and do a deep cleaning because stuff gets all gunked up. And I had a hearing test, and this audiologist did something different and told me that there may be a surgery that I could have on my right ear, um, that would restore most of my hearing. Now, I have a constant ring, so I have tinnitus, and it's constant. So my ear is constantly ringing. That will not go away, but they it might be able to restore my hearing, not 100%, but far more than where we are right now, which is very low. So I am trying to struggle with whether or not I'm going to attempt to have the surgery, because if I had a surgery, y'all know I'm gonna have some doctor's bills, and if I have a doctor's bill, I'm gonna have to go get a job. Like I would have to go out so that I'll be able to pay that bill off. But I got to come up with a decision within the next, say, 8 weeks, and really sooner than that, because they're gonna need me for that second baby and recovery time for a surgery. So I've got to I've got some things to think about, and I really am strongly leaning towards having the surgery because I'm tired of living like this. So this hearing out of one side of my face, and the ringing ain't gonna go nowhere. She already told me. The doctor said that you're gonna still have that ringing in your ear. Or my other option is to just get a hearing aid, which I don't mind getting a hearing aid, but and she was like, and that may muffle some of the tinnitus. So if I don't want to hear the ringing, I can get a hearing aid and call it 100. It'll muffle it'll muffle the tinnitus, and it will give me a little bit where I can hear more, or I could have the surgery. And believe it or not, getting the hearing aid is more expensive. And that is why I'm like, I think I'm on the track of probably having surgery done on my ear, which will put me on my butt for a little while, and it could even put me on my butt until after the baby. But I'm still mulling it around. So, but I really want it because I can't continue to live like this. It'd be different if they didn't offer me some hope, I've been living like this, so I would just continue. But now I've been offered hope to be able to hear, to restore some function, and I got to jump on it. I think I got to jump on it, which will take me out the game for a little while, actually. Um, so yeah, y'all let me know, where y'all think. What, even though, of course, at the end of it all, I'm gonna do what I feel like is best for me. But chime in. If it were you, what would you do? See, Justin, he understood. Justin says he'll be praying for the answers to come to me, but if it can repair the hearing, give it a shot. But I'll be praying for you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Clarence. Sorry, we understand, but hopefully they can get you fixed up. Man, it would be it would feel so good because they're saying it's only the only reason my hearing is as bad as it is because I have a thick bone building up over my eardrum, and then my eardrum is fine, which I thought it was really something wrong. I've been told there was something wrong with the eardrum, but this test that this lady did tested my hearing from like down here, and when she put this thing down here, I could hear stuff. She could get movement When they go in there and try to do stuff to my eardrum doesn't even move. But that's because they have discovered that it's because of a bone. And if they just drill a hole in this bone, number one, it'll open up my hearing. Number two, it's going to F with my balance. But here we are. I got a choice. Thank you, Lynn Grace. Thank you, Norman. Oh, I'm talking about Lysandra. I'm talking about Norman. Lysandra, obviously I need my eyes fixed too. But yeah, that's it. I don't have nothing else, y'all. I told y'all I was gonna tell you about the possibility of the surgery. I might even do a GoFundMe, be like, let me try to GoFund and raise up the other part, the 25% that I'll have to pay from my insurance and all of that stuff. But we shall see. Hopefully I can have the surgery before the baby is born so that I can still be here and help them. I won't be as dizzy or loopy or whatever. You would do it. Just you said you had tubes 6 times. Your ears are damaged as well, man. You know, especially being young, because relatively, as far as hearing loss and all this stuff, you know, it happens. But I'm a younger person for that to happen too, and you're younger than me, so I cannot imagine having these like difficulties at such a young age. I didn't think that it would be me, you know. But yeah, I think I'll let you guys know, but I am going to try to get a whole bunch of stuff recorded because I got some people who disappointed in me for not having these videos, even though I told y'all what the reasons was. Told y'all this was a busy time after the flu. Then you know we start rolling into Strange New Worlds. I was in the middle of that. Then every weekend something was going on over here. Every other weekend, all the way up until last weekend, because it's summertime. So yeah, that's it, y'all. I ain't got nothing else. We're gonna figure out what we're gonna talk about next week, and I'm gonna try to get you guys some scripted content out. Y'all let me know if there's anything particular you want to talk about besides Trek by Numbers. We got to get this. I think the next Trek by Numbers was a Discovery episode. And that would have been our first Discovery episode. So we can jump back into that as well. All that being said, I ain't got nothing else. I'll see y'all in the next one. Live long and prosper. Peace.